we're here to basically show that everybody has an ability that they can use to help the collective, meaning, the people and stuff like that. My name is Robert Caruso. I'm here with Brittany.
Hi.
Okay, and one of the things I've been a intuitive for about 30 years now, actually 33. And one of the things I really learned was there's no such thing as bad people. No matter what they do, no matter the reasoning behind it, there's just no bad people. There's just people that are conditioned to act out in certain ways. They're buried in so much fear and self-image issues and that sort of thing that they tend to act on these distractions. If we were to meet a person that didn't have these problems, you'd find the most intelligent, most understanding, most sensitive person you've ever met. Unfortunately, none of us have that. All we can do is spend some time and energy in getting rid of the angst and the conflicts that keeps us from being who we really are. I want to thank everybody for listening. And today is pretty cool because I get to put on here with us a man that I met several years ago. He's not only a family therapist, but he's also the host of Strategies for Living on 107.1 FM and Keel. I think he's going to have to tell you the number on that one. Anyway, the name's Dr. David McMillan, and we'll say hello now. What's going on, man?
Hey, Robert, what's going on?
Hanging with the mic, So, anyway.
You're doing a great job, my friend.
You think so? Okay, cool. We're working.
I think so.
We're working on it.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, Robert. It builds with time.
Yeah. What was those letters for Keel? I missed that one.
It's 710 AM and 101.7 FM. But for your listeners, the easiest thing to do is go to the App Store, either the Google App Store or the Apple App Store, and download the Keel app. Keel Shreveport, and that way you can listen to it any place in the world that you want to. You can also go on 710keel.com and listen live that way, but the easiest way to get us is on the Keel app.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I hope everybody got that. Anyway, now I know you're hardcore into the broadcasting for many years. What made you change lanes? Well, actually, I guess now both lanes kind of merged, didn't they?
Well, I like to joke and say 17 years in the radio business. I went into the radio business right out of high school. It was just going to be the way that I worked myself through college, and like a lot of things, reality interferes with your plans. Yeah. And so I ended up starting out as a part-time disc jockey, and I worked into the business area of the radio business, into sales and marketing, and kind of found my niche. Ended up staying in it for 17 years, and went from on the air to sales management, to general manager, and even had a part ownership in a radio station both here in Shreveport, and I had one in Boise, Idaho. So unfortunately, I was in business with some folks in the oil business, and anybody that knows about the oil business knows about the ups and the downs. And this was the 1980s, and the oil business did did back then what it's doing now. And anyway, that proceeded to sell all the assets that they had that were worth anything. One of those was the radio were the radio stations. And so I found myself after several years of being an owner, working for somebody again. And that's when I decided to go back to school, and it led me to graduate school and got a master's degree in counseling and opened my practice in 1991. And then from there, I guess you can take the boy out of radio, but you can't take the radio out of the boy. So in 1992, I decided to start Strategies for Living and kind of marry my two careers. And that's how all of it happened.
Right. I know that radio thing was addicting. I did it for a year, and I've always wanted to get back in it. But anyway, so what
it gets in your blood, Robert.
It really does. It really does. But what made you to decide psychology and that sort of thing, therapy, whatever, among all these other things you could be doing?
I jokingly say that I spent 17 years in the radio and advertising business, and that drove me so crazy I had to go find a way to get myself sane.
Right. Yeah. Did it work?
I don't think so. I'll let you be the judge of that.
Still working on it. I know. I get it.
It's still a work in progress. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we've been working together or hanging together, about 6 years now, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's been an incredible ride, and when we were friends for a little while, and I don't remember now how it evolved, how we decided to begin to see some clients together.
Yeah.
You may remember and recall how it all came to be, but I don't.
Well, actually, I do.
But I do know, that the many clients that we worked with together, marrying what you do and what I do has just been phenomenal. And the feedback that I've gotten from the clients that have chosen to have a session with you and I jointly has been wonderful. Just people really respond to it and resonate with it.
Yeah, it was cool. From my point of view, I was at a point in my life where I just felt like it wasn't enough muscle in what I was doing. I mean, I was doing what I could. People were happy with what I was doing. I mean, I wouldn't be in 30 years if it wasn't. And but I needed to be able to show that what I did was substantial, that it mattered, that it wasn't just a parlor game. It wasn't about the long, dark, tall, dark, handsome stranger, or did you have this habit because your great-great-grandmother slapped a gypsy and she put a curse, or that nonsense. Do you see what I'm saying? I need something with a little more muscle. And I had no intention. I mean, you called me because of those people, right? Well, just to say, I used to do some work out of a store out there. I used to read and teach classes, and hell, I hadn't been out there in 10 years when you called me. So anyway, and I guess it was you had a couple people mentioned that you should get me on the air or whatever it was you were doing. There's so many incredible things, quote unquote, I'm air quoting now, coincidence. I don't really believe that there's such a thing as coincidence, but I'm air quoting. So I think it was in the course of a week or two period, 2 or 3 different clients who had seen you when you had come to Shreveport in the past. And at the time I didn't know, found out later that it had been a decade since you had been here. Yeah. I get tired of driving.
But in a 1 to 2 week period, I had different clients say, there's this incredible psychic intuitive over in Dallas named Robert Caruso. And so now I'm remembering, I just picked up, I Googled you and got your information, and I picked up the phone and called you. And I told you, I said, I don't even really know why I'm calling, but here's what's happened. And that's how we got kicked off. And, I got an interesting story for you right now, Robert. Have we got a minute?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that after we got kicked off that you really helped me with, I was going through, as you know, one of the most god-awful times of my life. in terms of, my marriage of 15 plus years had all of a sudden fallen apart. And it was at about that point that you came into my life. And, you told me very accurately some things that, were going to happen. And it was just, we began to talk, and I began to listen to what you were saying. And I'm just thinking of this because you may not even remember this conversation, but I had just moved into my own place, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and I was sad, and I was lonely. And you told me one night, you said, well, buddy, I don't know if you know this.
Hello?
Uh-oh. We lost him.
We lost him. Okay. Hang in there, folks. Hello? No, we lost him. Get him back.
Yeah, just call him right back. Oh, I was really wanting to hear his story.
Oh, man. iPhone at its best.
Hi, this is David McMillan. Can't take your call right now, but leave me a message.
He's probably trying to call you while you're trying to call him at the same time.
Yeah. I'll try it again. This will be my last iPhone. You can't count on this damn thing.
Hello there.
All right, we're back. Cool.
Sorry about that.
That was iPhone.
That's all right.
Yeah, iPhone.
That's all right. Where did we drop out?
You were talking about
one night he was about to tell you something super important, and you had just gotten to that point.
Okay. So I'm in a low point in my life, and Robert says to me, he says, you don't know this, buddy, but there's a dark-headed woman coming your way. And I said, well, that may be so, but I'm not interested in any dark-headed woman. I was into feeling sorry for myself at that point. Robert knows plenty about that. And anyway, that was around somewhere in early 2015 that we had that conversation. And I truly did not have any idea that what I had no idea what Robert was talking about. Mm-hmm. But now fast forward, and here we are at June 2020, and I'm sitting next to the dark-haired lady. In fact, we're in a car, and she's driving as we're talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
That's awesome.
It all worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. But what has always astounded me, Robert, is the incredible accuracy within which you can tune into the vibration, the energy, the web, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It's the accuracy that you have is absolutely incredible to me.
Well, I appreciate it. Glad I can help. It's what we do. So everything kind of went along to plan. The thing what I really wanted to talk about is the work we've done.
Yeah.
Like.
Tell us how it works working with Robert and your clients.
Well, when I identify a client that I think needs a little extra, needs something, maybe I've worked with a client for a while and they're stuck, or maybe it seems like we're going around and around in a circle. Then some of those clients I will talk to about Robert and his specific gifts and give them the opportunity to do a joint session. And the way we've done it thus far is Robert is on the, on a speakerphone during a session that I'm having with the client, and we kind of do a joint session together. Robert tunes in and does his thing, and then the client and I can, use that information not only during the rest of that session, but in future sessions to kind of move them along. And that's what's been astounding to me, is not only the accuracy of the information that Robert is able to tune into, but how it has gotten some clients moving that otherwise were stuck.
Yeah. Right.
Great.
So, did you want to get into one of them or not?
Yeah, let's talk. Let's talk about what do we call our painter friend? We've given him a name. We've given him a name.
How about Mitchell?
Mitchell, yeah, that's right.
That.
We named him Mitchell.
Yeah.
So Mitchell's an interesting case because Mitchell is not only an artist. He's been a very successful artist through the years, and he's a professional. He's a professional waiter. He's a waiter at very, very high end types of establishments. Mitchell's significant other was wrongly accused of doing something that involved abuse, and both of them ended up getting arrested. Unfortunately, some very, very bad stuff was told, and I think the SWAT team, when they entered the home, thought they were going to make a major drug bust, but they didn't find anything because there was nothing there. And Mitchell and his wife ended up being in custody for about 2.5 or 3 weeks, and it totally turned their life upside down. Now, when he came to see me, it had been this had all taken place several years ago, but he still their lives were very much stymied because of the formal diagnosis. Mitchell, and I suspect his wife too, both were suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Mm-hmm. One of the big things is that Mitchell had not been able to do any of his artwork. He had just completely been stymied. He had not been able to do any of his artwork since the incident. They live pretty much with the blinds drawn and very much like hermits, hunkered down and frightened and scared that the police are going to show up again and arrest them and put them in jail again. Mm-hmm. And just no way to live. Absolutely no way to live. And as much as I guess at the point that Robert, you and I worked with Mitchell, I had worked with him, 8 or 9 months, but it just seemed to, we just seemed to get nowhere. It'd feel like we'd take a step forward, and then the next time I saw him, it would be 2 steps backwards.
Right.
And at any rate, the very first session the very first session that we had together, you got him doing artwork. Do you remember that?
Well, that got him to draw a line, right?
Well, no, it was a little more than a line. Yeah, you started with a line, but then you asked me if I had some colored pencils.
Oh.
And I happen to have a set of Crayola colored pencils in the top drawer of my desk. And so from the line, I handed him the colored pencils at your direction, and he sketched out what for most of us would have been a pretty decent piece of artwork, because Mitchell was talented.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, don't you think that's a lot of that situation? If somebody's really sensitive, like an artist, something as hardcore as jail really knocks them off their pins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of that. I mean, certainly here were people who never thought it could happen to them.
Right.
And then the unthinkable happened.
Right.
And I mean, I don't think any of us really appreciate it, the gift that we have in our freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And it can be taken away in a moment.
Yeah.
Either by a mistake, a dreadful mistake like was made in Mitchell's case, or there's other ways that your freedom can go away from you, like your the freedom of your health. You can lose your good health in a moment.
Right.
So I think we have to cherish we have to cherish the freedom that we have as we have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things about it where you're saying that he kept going in circles, I remember when I first looked at him, I saw a ring inside of his head spinning.
Yeah.
And I saw that one little opening like you would in a key ring. And that's where the idea of drawing that line came. You know what I'm saying? So he was fascinating. He really was. I mean, all of them have been, really. So
now, Robert, there was a broadcaster that I admired for years named Paul Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul Harvey used to have a show called The Rest of the Story.
Right.
So let me tell you the rest of the story. You remember that session? You remember the session that you're talking about?
Yeah.
That we're talking about where I handed him the colored pencils. You and I talked after that, and it was in between sessions. There's another story with Mitchell, but in between the first session that we had with him, and the next session we had with him, you said, why don't you go get a canvas and have some paints and just shove them in front of him. The colored pencils worked, and so let's see what he can do. And so I went down to Hobby Lobby or someplace like that, and bought a small acrylic paint set, and bought a canvas and some brushes, and I did exactly what you said. And I wish we could show on the podcast. I sent you a picture of it, Robert. He sat there in that next session and drew an incredible scene. It was he had been duck hunting and with some people, and it was a scene that represented what he had seen in his duck hunting experience.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, and it's hanging. That I consider it a one of my most valued pieces of art. It's hanging on my wall today at the office.
Yeah, it's absolutely
because it's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
It truly is a breakthrough for Mitchell, more so for Mitchell than you or I, Robert, because this guy has a whole art studio at his house,
mm-hmm.
and it was just collecting dust.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I don't know that you know this, Robert.
Mm.
Mitchell lives right down the road from where that dark-haired lady used to live.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
Small world, right?
Tell me there's no such thing as connectedness and connectivity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since we were doing it, like I said, I really, when we started doing it, I thought, wow, this is cool. It could really happen somewhere. Really make a difference. And the one thing that I've always wanted to do since I've been in this and been in this forever is to show the impact this can have when you take it away from a lot of the other stuff. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because this kind of work, what I do, it has such a bad stigma, and it's because there's a lot of nonsense going on around it. But what it needs to be seen is there absolutely is no chosen one. Anybody can learn to do it. They just have to learn and develop. And I feel like if everybody knew how it works and let go of the fantasies, then it could be used for stuff like we're talking about. It could be used for more often. Could be more often used for police work, for checking out child abuse issues. I mean, rape issues. I mean, it could go on and on.
Absolutely.
But the stigma has to be removed, and it can't be removed just by talking about it. It has to be removed by example. And
exactly.
That's kind of where it is for me. I've done murders. I've done one murder up in Gainesville. Police and FBI was involved, but they wouldn't, of course, they wouldn't acknowledge it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting because law enforcement uses a lot of paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is not unusual for them to turn, especially in cold cases, to people like yourself, people who, do channeling, people who use the pendulum, things like that. But it's interesting because they don't give the credit. The case breaks open, but they don't give credit then to how the case broke open.
Right.
And I wish they did. I wish more times they would give the credit where the credit was due.
Right. Well, I think what it is, a lot of times when they work with somebody that does what I do, a lot of times what they'll do is there's so much fluff around the information, little stuff, that it starts becoming, okay, well, that was right, but the rest of this was absurd. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so they write it off as whoever it was got lucky or whatever, But anyway, it's just, all this could be done if people really understood how it works. You know what I'm saying? And doing it like what you and I are doing, that goes a long way. If we can, like we talked about doing TED Talks and the book and everything. So
absolutely,
this would definitely crack that nut. So
well, and it's not wild and crazy when you think about it. The world of quantum physics.
Right. That's where I come from.
Really defines, that it's all energy.
Sure.
We're energy, and it's all energy, and we're in a web of energy. And so, if you understand that, and you're willing to do what the work necessary to tune into that energy and learn how to tune to that energy, then you can use that, to your benefit.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because whatever you let your mind do, it'll do. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's really no limits. I mean, you're I don't know if you're going to move your car with it or anything. That's something else. But the idea is to be able to let your mind have the power and I don't know if you call it dexterity or what. Anyway, the ability to do what it can do. You know what I'm saying? Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're human beings.
Right. Well, when we did that Mitchell, what we're talking about, he was our first one. I remember going into it really digging I was going to do it because I wanted to prove to. I've been in a long time and I really felt pretty good about what I did and how I did it and that sort of thing. But to take somebody from that is that racked and be able to help lead them out, that was huge for me. That's why I'm still doing it. Otherwise, I'd have been done a long time ago.
the next session that we had with Mitchell, if you'll remember, he had himself all twisted up again.
Yeah.
Because he was convinced that he wasn't going to be able to get his certification that he needed to continue working.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff that was on his record. So that next session that he decided to work with us together, he brought that up very early in the session. And you said to him, you tuned in, you said, well, tell me about the guy you've got to go see about this. And he told you a little bit about him, and you tuned into him, and you said, you need to put that in the past because that's already a done deal. He said, you told him, don't worry about that. There's nothing to worry about. And anyway, this is what is poignant. During the session that we had, he got a telephone call from that guy that he needed to see. And the guy told him, I don't know if you remember this, Robert, but the guy told him, come in that afternoon. And, that they would talk about what needed to happen going forward. And at any rate, long story short, that afternoon, he stepped out of the office to take the call from the guy because he saw it was the guy. When he came back in, he was really twisted up. He said, and you said, it's nothing to worry about. It's all going to work out this afternoon. And anyway, he called me ecstatic.
Yeah.
I think his appointment was at 3:00. He called me ecstatic at 4:00 and said, I have my certification. I've been renewed. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. He was listening after that, wasn't he?
He has been a regular. He regularly asks me when I see him, when are we going to do a session with Robert?
Yeah. It quits being therapy, starts being just fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Yeah, I remember last time I saw him, and I see this a lot in people that I normally see too. He was kind of caught in the depression that he'd attained. Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember it's like we talked, and it was like started listing things that were going good for him. And I remember thinking and telling him, how is your life bad, buddy? And I remember him going, right. It's like he found a way, or he was able to actually see that things weren't as bad as he thought they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting because not only in Mitchell's case, but in a lot of cases, when something good happens to us, and we are in the throes of depression and anxiety, a lot of times we'll talk ourselves out of the good.
Right. Yeah, I see that a lot.
We will talk ourselves. Things will be happening positive for us, and I'll be damned, we'll talk ourselves out of it.
Right.
And so that's another reason I think that the 1-2 punch that you and I have in working with clients together. We kind of double team them like they used to do those tag team wrestling matches.
Right. Yeah.
We kind of tag team them.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, we've had these kind too, that what I'm about to say, a lot of times when people, they need therapy, they know it, but they can't outwardly either face it or acknowledge it or say it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I think we did remember we did this man's man, I call him a man's man, and and he said, okay, is everything going okay? Oh yeah, it's fine. So you don't have any problems? Everything good? Yeah. And I remember going, but I'm seeing this. Well, yeah. Okay. And then this and this. Well, yeah. And then he let that shield down. And I think just talking to him probably that'd be a little tough to get past, I would think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
You have to get past that shell, But
it's
pretty fascinating work. I love it. It's great. I love all my people that I read, of course, but these guys, to actually watch somebody walk out of that kind of a hang up, oh, very nice. Very nice. So, like I said, I believe everybody's good. I think everybody's powerful. I think everybody's probably a genius, but they're piled on with so much nonsense. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Well, we get, by the time we're 7 years old, we are absolutely loaded up with messages, beliefs, and stories that don't belong to us. They belong to other people. They belong to, our parents, our grandparents, the people we go to church with, our aunts and uncles and neighborhood, and we get a load of them.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that we're not really conscious of how influential those messages and beliefs and stories are in our life. They kind of work like the operating system on a computer. It like DOS. If your operating system is DOS, you don't ever see DOS. It runs in the background.
Right.
And unless there's a problem, you're not even gonna know it's there. It's just doing its thing. And that's what happens. We, by the time we're 7 years old, our DOS is loaded up.
Right.
And those programs, a lot of those programs are just running.
Yeah.
They're just running naturally. And sometimes there's a lot of people who live 80 years and they've never really looked at the messages, beliefs, and stories that were downloaded to them in the first 3 to 7 years of their lives.
Right. Yeah, and that's when
it's incredible.
Yeah. And the thing is somebody that young is so vulnerable to everything around them that, my God.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that made me think of that, I thought about that for a long time and that's why I always say everybody's good. And I don't care if it's Ted Bundy. He was a good man. He was just covered with nonsense. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And all these little idiot things. But one of the things that made me see it really vividly was, as a lot of people know, I used to live a little colorful life and used to get in a little trouble, fighting, and all this kind of stuff,
Oh, not you, Robert.
Not me, no. Anyway, so, you know what? Every girlfriend says, don't tell people that. What's wrong with you? But I don't care. Anyway, I started, I was looking for, still beating up people for money. I was drugs and all this stuff. And I went to had a regression done. And I didn't even believe in it. But I did it because I had $100 I was going to kill. I had nothing to do that evening. And so I went to this guy and we did it. And then it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal because I was able to, like, he was doing this thing called running energy where he did it and I could literally see colors. And then after that, I saw a picture and I went through a whole past life situation. And at the end, he said, does your higher power have anything to say to you? And all the damn thing said was, relax. I was wanting some kind of profound thing like the burning bush kind of nonsense, right? But he said, just relax, right? So I felt all cheated, right? But what it made me understand was my issue had nothing to do with what was going on. It had to do what has went on. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like my dad was kind of a gorilla. He was kind of a knuckle dragger. Anyway, he loved violence. He loved fighting. Like I told you before, he took me to the basement, used to fight me for money. Anyway, that being said, I realized when I had the regression, the thing says relax. And I was like, damn it, is that the best we can do here? So I'm driving away and all of a sudden it comes to me. What people think don't matter. Now that seems like just a kind of a lame little message, don't mean anything, but it did mean something. Then I realized every time I got mad, I had to unravel the reasoning. Like a lot of times you can probably, I know you can corroborate this, but a lot of times we get mad at stuff. It isn't even the whole event. It could be something as silly as one word or the proximity of who's saying that word or even the time of day,
Yep.
And
Yep.
once I learned that, every time I would get mad, I'd do self-analysis to find out where was my trick, where was the trip. And every time I would break one of them, I call them breaking blocks. Every time I broke one, the intuition got stronger. And next thing I know, I'm predicting junk I wasn't even trying to predict, you know? And
one day you broke enough of them where that natural gift broke through.
Right.
You know, you broke enough of the barriers that your natural gift was able to come through.
Yeah.
And thank goodness,
well,
you know, for a lot of people that you've helped over the last 30 years, that you were able to bust through that.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, I know you said gift, and I don't think it's a gift. I think sometimes it's a curse, buddy, but not really. I'm just kidding. But I don't really think it's a gift.
I get where you're coming from, Robert, because and I think you're exactly right. Because if we label it a gift, we think of it as something extra.
Right.
But the truth is that we've all got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that some of us don't have those barriers broken through yet.
Right. That's it. That's it.
That you're describing. And so I get exactly what you're saying, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I totally agree. It's just that we're so accustomed to calling it a gift.
Yeah.
And we're so accustomed to, and you know, you were talking earlier about, you know, there's some people that do what you do that are, you know, that don't make you proud and so that's the setup. When we, you know, it's the same thing like a guru, you know, when we make somebody a guru, you know, we're setting up the possibility of abuse or being abused.
Right.
And I think that you're saying the same thing, and I think it's very, very important. This is a birthright. We've all got this.
Absolutely.
And so even to label it what we've always labeled it, a gift, is probably not healthy. We probably need to change that.
Yeah, I don't believe it's healthy at all. I think it's actually damaging because, like when we think of a lot of people, I ain't one of them, but they think of politicians, they think of rich people and stuff like that. They start thinking they're better. Well, they ain't better. You know, something just went their way, or you know, maybe at some point they were ethical or whatever. But the thing about it is, as I said at the beginning of this, is everybody's got the same abilities. Everything's got the same tools. It's just, what are you going to do with it? Do you see?
Right.
And your job and mine too, not exactly the same way, but my job is to help people get all that heaviness and the crust of fear. How gross does that sound? All that crust off them. Do you see? Just like
I think we're in I think what we do is very similar. I think you're as much of a counselor as I am. You know, you practice a little differently than I practice.
Yeah, really.
But you know, but you're, you know, we're both basically doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is helping people remove the blocks in their lives that are holding them back, that are creating, you know, and causing unnecessary fear in their life, and stopping them.
Yeah, you know, when I started doing this, you know, block breaking thing, I kept thinking, what the hell's going on? Because I didn't want to do this, man. You know, and I thought, wow, what's going on? You know, and I lost my train, man.
Damn thing will run off the track if you don't watch it.
Sure as hell did, yeah.
But you were saying you didn't want the gift. I mean,
no,
you see, that's, I think where you were going is that whole thing with the gift. You looked at it as a gift. You didn't want it.
No,
but it's not a gift. It's a birthright. It belongs to all of us.
Yeah. And
enough broke through, and you had to get comfortable with the fact that, okay, well, this is not something weird. This is just part of me.
Just who I am. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a little nuts, but you know, like I said, I mean, that's the whole thing, is to well, I know what I was going to say. When I thought about the breaking the blocks, I started getting a vision. I got a vision of one of those tall lamps. I think they're called halogen lamps, real tall, in your house.
Yeah.
They're made out of nothing. They're worthless, really. Anyway, I got the picture of it, that say you're born and you've got, that is what you are, this lamp, right? And then every time
Yeah.
your mother comes up and slaps the hell out of you, calls you dirty names, you got a veil over that lamp. And then your father comes in, big, kills your dog, you've got a couple more. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
All these stuff starts happening. Pretty soon the light doesn't show through. You see, and then as you break these blocks, which is what you do, you help people do that. I do my best to do that. And what that does, it takes those veils a little bit off until that light does show through.
Absolutely.
And what that's showing is the actual connection and the circuit between the universe, energetics or whatever, and who you are. You know what I'm saying? Gets the stuff out of your way. And it's not something that's going to stop anytime soon. I mean, like even now, I was telling Brittany here that there was a time when I'd been doing this for many years, and I would find prejudices that I didn't know I had. Like, I had one for old white men. I thought you couldn't trust them because that's how I was raised, basically. Because my dad was an old white man, I couldn't trust him. But anyway,
of course, yeah.
But I couldn't trust old men. And if I saw an older lady that was groomed, then of course I had to be careful what I say, which I never was any good at that. Anyway, but I realized those are prejudices I didn't know I had.
Right.
But when I broke them, then it became, I got to free wheel a little better. You see?
Yeah.
And like when I went to the Amazon and did the ayahuasca, I went in just wasted, just burnt out so bad. And when I come out, my ability didn't have a technique anymore. It's conversational.
Yeah.
Because apparently I broke a few things while I was there. Do you see?
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating stuff. But the main thing I say is, like I said, the marrying the psychological with the intuition, I think that's really the next step to helping people with the mental issues. Because, I mean, I could give them predictions, and I've helped people. I might have helped quite a few people. And a lot of people leave going, wow, I'm glad I came, and all, I do all that. But if we did this enough that it became mainstream, maybe we won't have the abuse anymore. Maybe we won't have people that just arbitrarily beat the crap out of whoever's around them, or will steal from their mother, that kind of thing, start breaking some of that. But we have to get away from, the fear of things, the need to constantly do what we're always told we're supposed to do. Or okay, well, you can do that. If you can do that, then there's something wrong with your brain. You get what I'm saying? Like when I was a kid, I remember when I was a kid, this voice came to me, right? And was saying all kinds of stuff. And I went and told my mom that I thought it was an alien. And I went and told my mom that I did that, and she about beat me to death because she thought that I was losing my mind or something, or she didn't want nobody to know I was losing my mind or something.
She wanted to beat some sense into you.
That's right. She wanted to beat that devil out,
Yeah. Beat the devil out, some sense back in.
Right. So, it's, I don't know. I just think that, I think now at this point in time, I think we're at a point in our civilization, in the world, in the consciousness of the mankind, or even all living things. We're at a point where we're getting past the blood and guts life, and we're getting into the more broader thinking, broader behavior, learning how to navigate as opposed to press through, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're right, Robert. Mm-hmm. And I hope and pray you're right, because, but I do think, I think the signs are there. I don't think it's as maybe revolutionary as maybe some people think it is or going to be, but I think it's going to be, it's continuing to evolve.
Yeah.
It's more evolutionary than revolutionary.
Yeah. Well, like myself, I kind of see that in 27 months, it's recorded too, baby. Anyway, in 27 months, all the nonsense we're going through now, this corruption, all this crazy crap, is going to start being okay, starting to get better. You know what I'm saying? We're going to find out things that but hardly anybody knew was true. It's going to get pretty crazy. So I'm looking forward to it. Personally, I dig crazy. So
I don't doubt you, and I'm glad this is recorded. We can listen back to it and point to it.
yes,
Just like I do with the dark-haired lady.
yeah, there you go. Point at it. Say, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Yeah.
Well, I really applaud
Yeah, well,
you. Sorry, go on.
what's that, Brent?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I really applaud you for working with Robert. I've never heard of a therapist doing this before, and working with therapy and intuitive guidance is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
I think my hope is that we're doing something that will open up a pathway for more and more to be open to it.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think I'm the only one, but I don't think it's, I don't think there's many of us, and I hope there will be more.
Yeah. I don't know of any, but hell, I don't know everybody. So there you go.
I don't know of any.
So, yeah. One thing I thought was kind of funny. We're not mentioning any names, of course. Remember you had me go visit that psychiatrist guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't. By the way, folks, it wasn't for a session. Anyway, but it was weird because I had that prejudice then. Normally I could read through.
Yeah. I had to really do some talking. I had to do some tall talking to get you to come.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go
because
yeah.
And it was a matter of we didn't make any converts that day.
No.
But he was very curious. He was very curious about what you and I were doing.
Yeah.
And he wanted to hear more.
Yeah.
And he hasn't added it to his practice.
No.
But we had a very, very, he welcomed us into his home.
Yeah.
He fixed us a nice dinner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it was a great time.
Yeah.
We had great conversation.
Well, the thing is, towards the end, I felt like he kind of got into it,
Oh, I think he did.
And because I remember he looked
the
at
interesting thing, the interesting thing, I don't know if you remember, but his wife and daughter-in-law were really into it.
Yeah. Well, didn't I read his daughter? I read his daughter, right?
You did. His daughter-in-law. Yeah, you read his daughter-in-law.
Yeah, that's why he wanted to meet me. But I remember driving over and think, man, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? I don't need to talk to this guy.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, remember, Robert, we were within 2 miles of his house.
Yeah.
Because he lives way on out.
Uh-huh.
And we were within a couple of miles of his house. And you said, are you sure we don't need to turn around? Are you sure we need to do this?
Right. I did not want to. Well, what it was, had anybody else told me to do that, I wouldn't have did it. You know what I'm saying? Because all I could think about was this guy going, what are you doing? You nuts. You see, him trying to give me any lip. And then I might go a little dark on him, and I didn't want to do that, I thought, if I got to tell this guy to go to hell, I don't want to do it in his living room, So, but I had a good time because the way he acted and what he said to me at the end, he goes, wow, you're a wise man. And I didn't think I gave a damn what he thought, but I really did enjoy that. I did like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate you being on here with us, man. I mean,
anytime, Robert. This has been a blast.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to next Friday on your show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm excited for the launch of us, and I hope us continues to do very well. I think it will.
I think it will.
So any way that I can help, let me know.
I appreciate it. Before we go, I promised that I was gonna put out a technique on how to access your intuition. This is a very simple one, and it sounds like bullshit, but it isn't, I promise. One of the things to do is say when you meet somebody, and as soon as you meet them, take a couple minutes and decide what kind of animal they are. What that'll do, it'll access your intuition so that you're able to use that animal's characteristics to tell yourself what their personality. For example, maybe the guy looks like a snake. Probably wouldn't want to trust him. Okay, maybe he looks like a bear. So maybe he's cuddly and all nice and shit, but maybe he could be an asshole at a drop of a dime. And, like I met a woman, she totally looked like a rabbit, but she was all dirty and messed up, so that tells me that she wasn't having a good time. Her life was tough on her. So this is a technique. It seems it's very easy. what you're doing is training your mind to think in those terms. It's not mystical, magical. It's human. It's human ability. And what you're doing is you're accessing your intuition, which you already have, and you're doing it through visualization. Once you're able to do that, you'll be able to look at somebody for a half a second and get a good idea whether you want to go forward with that relationship. Anyway, that's the technique. Very small, very, very little, not a real big deal, but hopefully it'll work. I have a lot of people asking me about how do you tell if this guy's right to date or this girl is going to run off my money or not. And this is a technique that I use, that I have them use. And it's not about the person is spiritually an animal or spiritually this. No, you're just accessing your intuition. And having said that, I can tell you that I could teach somebody how to look at a piece of dog crap and get the answer to any question. And with that being said, we got to slide because it's been an hour. And don't forget, next week we have Lynn Fabia. She's a 6th-degree black belt in Aikido. And she's going to talk about her encounter with entities that helped her develop into now being with a who's who of martial arts and being a dance instructor. She's now teaches ballroom dancing. And it's completely changed her personality. Anyway, looking forward to everybody coming back and doing this stuff again. And that's it for the day, baby. So, all right, music ain't working. All right, have a good day.